If you think we need to have any additions to our video, we'll gladly comment about it if you guys are any confused, and we'll make a part 2 or something about that for people who are confused.
Hello YouTube, here I'm Maxi,
And we'll
and today we want to explain you something about Redstone.
some
But
basics.
um, what we are going to show you is just how
How
Redstone
redstone works.
behaves in certain ways.
hmm
And you might have seen that weird blinking ore there and didn't really see a purpose in it, and it gives those weird funky things. And yeah, you should just try placing them by right clicking on the ground. Is a cool pattern. You can use it as a carpet. Don't. Um, but yeah.
Okay. You find the redstone. You get like 4 to 6 redstone ore. That's pretty much it. We're not gonna get too into that.
Wait,
Moving on.
you, as you can imagine now, as you said, powered. Redstone is pretty much like a electricity wire,
hmm
and yes, we pretty much have infinite electricity in Minecraft. You know, like water.
But there's one
Pretty useful.
con to that. So you'll see. Let me remove these real quick. When you power redstone, which you can do with the redstone torch, there's redstone torches, repeaters, switches, buttons. We'll explain that in a second. You can look up the
Yes.
combinations to make those. We'll have a link in the description because I don't really want to get into that simple stuff. But redstone will only travel 15 blocks. So if you
To
look
make
here,
that more clear, we have that too,
yeah.
just because it lights so
So
nicely.
see how
After
what?
the 16th block and after will not be powered anymore.
Yes.
What you can do to that is just add a repeater and it will power it.
For another
Or
15.
yes, and um, but we'll also come into that a bit more later.
Okay, moving on. Now we're going to talk about things that can power redstone. There are 5 different things, 5 main things that can power redstone. So we have a switch. Come on, flip that switch. Maxi, thank you. Powers it. Moving on. We have button, which will, for the switch, it's a toggled. It'll stay on for a button. Stop spamming it. It stays on for, I think, 8 ticks, which we'll get into ticks in a little bit. It stays for about 8 out of 10 of a second, 4/5 of a second, basically, depending on your computer. We'll get into that later. You got a redstone torch, which can power redstone, as you guys know. Pressure plates. The difference between these is, as you saw him throwing, a wooden pressure plate you can throw items on and they'll trigger it. So that's pretty. It's a good thing to know. Now we're going to get into more of how these work with the blocks.
Okay, there are two types of powering blocks. One type is half powering it, a block that's in the way of redstone. As you can see, the redstone wire behind the block is in the off segment. But if there is a repeater powering a block, it fully powers the block, and the redstone wire behind the block is also powered. There are also ways to get a signal out of a half-powered block, but later to that.
Now we're going to talk about how some blocks get powered. As you see here, these are fully powered, as we call it. There really isn't a fully or half powered, but we are using these terms so it's easier to understand. Now, a fully powered, let's say the switch that you toggle, you right click, left click. I have to right click because I'm in creative mode. You see it powers all blocks around it. You see above it, below it, to the left of it, to the right of it.
Behind it.
And behind it. Even if I put a block over there. Everywhere. Even in front of it. That's pretty simple. That also happens with buttons. This happens for buttons, as you see. It lights up the back too. It happens for pressure plates. I won't show it for every single one. I'll just show it for this pressure plate because they work for both of them. Except this does not power above it. If you were to put a block above it, it would not power it. as far as I know. As you see, it doesn't power it because it isn't connected to this block. It is connected to this block. So remember that. Now, this works the same with that pressure plate, except for the item thing. Torches work the same way too. They power above it, to the side of it, that sort of thing. I don't want to get too into it because I'm just going to repeat that same thing. Repeaters too, above it, to the side of it. Pretty simple. And as you see over here, those are all full power, but when you get into redstone, this does not power anywhere around it. As you see, unless I put that above it, but if I put a block, it would not power it. So you see, half power does not get anywhere into it.
May I? Okay, so as we said, you can also have power blocks, but and sadly, redstone cannot take the power out of half-powered blocks, but other things can. Like, for example, pistons can.
At all angles?
Yes, again, at all angles. So can torches. While torches are weird, they invert the signals, but we come to that in a future tutorial. And also repeaters, they can take signal out of the blocks.
One important thing I have to add, since you can't place a torch under a block, it won't do it will not power it in any way. If you try to do that, it'll make a clock, which we'll get into later. So it doesn't work at all angles. Repeaters also do not work at all angles. There's a problem here. Or if you can go, well, you can go under it, but you can't do something like, you can't go sideways like that. It does not work. But for the most part, they work. You basically gotta aim the rear of the repeater towards what redstone you want, but the only part that doesn't work like that from top of it. Go on, Maxi.
So as well, note blocks power it, but they are hardly part of redstone engineering, but well, they are fun. And as we said, sadly, redstone doesn't take the power out of blocks themselves, but yeah, redstone's still awesome, isn't it?
Right now we're going to cover ticks. Ticks are actually really complicated, but we're going to do the basics of it. The basic stuff you need to think about. Ticks, they vary per computer. If your computer's slow, the ticks might be modified with the server. It's kind of weird. If you look up TaviWriter, we'll have a video about that in the description. But I'm just going to do the basic stuff. A tick is somewhere between 1/8 to 1/10 of a second. So that's all you really need to remember. Just go by tenths of a second. That's all I recommend. I mean, if you have... Remember, that sounds really slow, but ticks add up. I mean, 10 ticks, now you got a second. 30 ticks, now you got 30 seconds. Or 3 seconds, so, add up. Okay.
Okay, so as Will just told you, repeaters have a delay on them. Because if I step on that pressure plate, it'll take a tick to react. But you can modify that. You can go 1, 2, 3, or up to 4 tick with one repeater, but just right-clicking it. So if I step here, it'll take 4 tick to react. A torch, in fact, has 1 tick to react to change its state. I, for example, took some repeaters, and this line of repeaters has all 4 tick. Those have 1 tick. So if I step here, you'll clearly see that how slow one of the lines is. Our basic tutorial about redstone physics. If you still have any questions, ask someone else. We don't care.
No, he's joking. Just if you have problems, just PM me. Okay, I'll be glad to check out any problems, because we were all noobs one day with redstone. That was like a year ago or something. Okay.
For you like 3 days ago.
Yeah.